Um, yes, so I'm going to talk about the state of Femtech, and especially about big data, AI, and machine learning in this field. So I'm going to touch upon, well, first of all, what is Femtech, and then about some market prospects. Then I will talk especially about big data and harnessing data, and limitations, conclusions, and I think there's also time for Q&A. So first of all, what is Femtech? Well, Femtech, it's an emerging field that combines two words, female and technology, and this field focuses on developing solutions and products to address various female health and wellness needs. So, for example, postnatal solutions or solutions to improve menstrual health, or something that targets fertility, etc., etc. So what kind of products exist? Well, when you talk about Femtech, mostly you talk about menstrual, fertility, postnatal tracking apps. Then there's telemedicine solutions, right? Wearable devices, check kits, as in hormone, checking your hormone balance or something else, and then diagnostic and screening tools. Well, in some cases, actually, there's a very blurred line between Femtech and Femcare. But in some cases, some D2C brands, EC sites, some companies that produce like organic napkins or some after pills, they're also treated as Femtech companies. Especially this happens in Japan. If you talk about Japanese Femtech market, although we have this part of the world that's a part of the word that says tech, mostly it's brands. It is EC sites or some companies that are creating more like tangible products for women, or there's a lot of like information newsletters, etc., etc. From my point of view, actually in Femtech, when you talk about Japan, there's still not enough tech, there's still not enough data-driven innovation, and that's something that Flora is trying to improve, and would be really great if the market would be moving more in that direction. In any case, what is this? What kind of prospects this market has in general? Well, it's poised for growth because of the several factors. There is an increasing awareness and acceptance of women's health issues. More women in Japan become vocal about their health and wellness needs. There's also a growing demand for Femtech products and services that cater to their needs, because, you know, for a long time, it's been a taboo. Discussing fertility issues, discussing menopause or menstruation isn't a conversation that people have in public spaces. There's also a lot of governmental support right now, because Japanese government has been actively promoting female health and wellness as part of their overall healthcare reform agenda. And this includes actually innovation. This includes investing in innovation, research, and development of startups, and just in also in companies, in corporations. Yeah, and finally, there's a lot of technological advancements in this field with the advent of new technologies such as AI and machine learning. There's a lot of interesting things going on in the market right now, and it is a great time to innovate in the space right now. There's a lot of blue ocean territory. As a market, it is projected to hit $92.35 billion by 2030, and it's growing at a really, really fast pace. Although there are some difficulties, as I've mentioned, although awareness is growing, there are still taboos. There is lack of education. Despite of growing demand, there is still a lack of, for example, like sex educations or education at school, or education about like how a body works. Many women are unaware not only of the benefits of Femtech products, but of the issues or conditions that they might suffer from. There's cultural stigma, as I've mentioned a lot of corporations. It's a huge problem for corporations where when their employees have health issues, but at the same time, they cannot really help their employees because there is stigma a lot around talking about these female-related issues. So it's not something that can be brought up in public space or in like work environment. There's limited funding, and there's also regulatory hurdles. And that's especially for overseas startups, for overseas telemedicine or hardware companies that want to enter a Japanese market. There's a lot of regulations, and there's a lot of tests and a lot of guidelines that they have to adhere to. Yes. So moving on to more like data and harnessing data in this space. So what are the wearable devices, mobile applications in Femtech landscape? They continuously collect data on menstrual cycles, fertility, sleep patterns, stress levels, physical activities, and even this kind of wellness data, not going too deeply into conditions or symptoms, they are at the moment enough to create valuable, unique insights into health issues. And when we're talking about harnessing data, something as simple as identifying patterns and correlations between lifestyle factors and menstrual irregularities are actually super important right now. I'll explain a bit later why, but giving insights like this help a lot of women to notice that there might be some issue related to their health. Then there's also predicting fertility windows with greater accuracy to aid women and their families in family planning. As you know, right now, infertility, it's a huge issue all over the world, and it's a huge issue in Japan. As far as I remember, 1 in 3 couples here experience infertility. So using data to make a more personalized plan is really, really important. And then customizing pregnancy care plans, streamlining screening processes for breast and cervical cancers are also one of the most common applications of data. So why is this important? Actually, 39.6% of women experience OBGYN-related conditions in their life. So it's a huge number. WHO in one of its working papers called it a hidden pandemic. But if we look at numbers of people who are actually getting diagnosed, and if you look in Japan, 91% of women that experience clinically painful periods that something that makes their life and their ability to work really worse, they are undiagnosed. So these women, they think that painful period is something that, well, it is a period. It's something that everybody experiences. They don't talk to their parents about it. They can't talk to their friends, and they're afraid to go to a hospital. So for this kind of situation, giving really simple but useful insights about the patterns of their symptoms and the patterns of their menstrual cycles can bring huge value to people who might have these conditions, but who haven't noticed and who don't even know about the existence of these conditions. Some other examples, more specific examples of how data is utilized. So, for example, for menstrual health research, well, all of these examples are conducted not just by research institutions, but mostly in cooperation with startups or corporations. Why? Because it's really important to collect a lot of data, and research institutions normally don't have access to, for example, like 1 million samples or 2 million women. So actually female femtech startups and pharma corporations play a huge role in just gathering and collecting data. So the more companies we have innovating in this space, not even innovating, just creating products in this space, the more research we have. So for example, by collecting data on women's menstrual cycles, we can gain insights into patterns, variations, identify common disorders and associated symptoms. For example, a study that analyzed menstrual cycle data from over 60,000 women found that women who slept less than 7 hours per night were more likely to experience irregular cycles, suggesting that addressing sleep problems may be an effective approach for managing this kind of irregularities. So we have this link between female health and sleep, and that's something that can be implemented at once in some kind of app that if it tracks this kind of irregularity, it can suggest that this is, if you're suffering from this kind of condition, if you're suffering from this kind of symptom, this is an easy way to improve it. The same goes for fertility. For example, there's also a study in which they took data of over 1 million women and found that those who consumed more fruits and vegetables had higher fertility rates. And this is also something that can be implemented right away, and by using this data to, create more personalized fertility plans. For childbirth and pregnancy, women with high blood pressure are likely to experience postpartum depression, and it's a very, very useful insight, because when postpartum depression already occurs, it's already too late. It's very hard to intervene, and by having this insight, we know that if we intervene at this point, not even specifically like a medical professional contacting a patient, it can be just like an article on how to manage your emotional state or how to ask for help if you need it. But it's something that can bring value and can lower the risk of user developing postpartum depression. Same goes for menopause. There's also a link between hot flashes, one of the most representative symptoms of menopause, and cardiovascular disease. But of course, there's limitations. First of all, there's a limited availability of data. There is often, it happens really often because women's health issues are still considered a taboo. There is cultures where it's really, really hard to gather data. It's really hard to gather data in the workplace. There is just a lot of context in which we still don't have enough data. Then there's privacy and ethical concerns. The use of personal data raise this kind of concerns for sensitive health issues such as menstruation or fertility. For example, it's a bigger issue in the US when in some states, as you know, abortion is illegal at an earlier point in time. So there's an ongoing concern among consumers who don't want to share their fertility information with some tracking apps because they're afraid that the app providers will share it with the government, who at their part can, play a role in identifying people who underwent this kind of illegal abortions. There's also lack of diversity. Overall, there's a lot of lack of diversity in research. Most of the research on new drugs or on even safety, like car safety, they're actually conducted on men. There's lack of diversity in gender, but also in such countries as the US or Europe, there's lack of diversity in terms of race or in terms of wealth. People in poor regions might not be using like femtech products as often as people who have more money. And finally, there's also an inconsistent data quality that can lead to inaccurate results and limit the reliability of Femtech products. So especially when you collect data from mobile apps or using surveys like self-reporting or stuff like this, it's really, really important to process it well so that it's not biased or it's not incomplete. So I think my time's almost up. Just in general, Femtech as a market, and especially data and utilizing data, has immense potential to revolutionize female health and wellness in Japan and all over the world. It's really, really important to uncover valuable insights, new insights, and facilitate personalized solutions. It is believed right now that the future of healthcare is personalized. And the only way that you can do it is by utilizing technology. So that's something that I think not only me, but a lot of people would like to see develop more in this market. So yes, thank you very much.